Chlamydia. Let's kick things off with the absolute heavy hitter of the bunch. Chlamydia. This little bacterial nightmare is basically the undisputed champion of the infection world because it spreads like absolute wildfire. The wildest thing about chlamydia? It's completely sneaky. Doctors literally call it a silent infection because half the time, people have absolutely no idea they're carrying it around. They're out here living their best life, completely unaware that a microscopic bacterium is throwing an absolute rager in their reproductive tract. How it slips in transmission is as straightforward as it gets. Chlamydia moves from person to person through unprotected fluid exchange during vaginal, anal, or oral contact. The bacteria love warm, moist environments, so the moment body fluids make contact, it hits a ride and sets up camp in the cervix, the urethra, or even the rectum and throat. You don't even have to go all the way to catch it. Just basic fluid contact is more than enough for this bug to invade your system. The symptoms. When it does decide to show its face, it's not subtle. For guys, you're looking at a deeply uncomfortable sensation whenever you try to pee. Imagine glass shards inside your plumbing, which is an immediate red flag that something is horribly wrong. For women, it can cause an abnormal, sometimes foul-smelling vaginal discharge and random bleeding between your periods. Gasps in horror. If it spreads further up into the pelvic area, it triggers pelvic inflammatory disease, PID, which brings along a brutal, constant ache in the lower stomach. And if it gets into the rectum from anal contact? Get ready for intense pain, bleeding, and discharge from the back end. It's an absolute nightmare all around. Gonorrhea. Next up on our list is a disease that's been around forever, commonly known on the streets as the clap, gonorrhea. This is another bacterial infection, but unlike chlamydia, which likes to hide out silently, gonorrhea usually makes itself known with absolute maximum drama. It's aggressive, it's painful, and to make matters significantly worse, scientists are currently panicking because this bug is constantly evolving to become completely resistant to modern antibiotics. How it slips in gonorrhea spreads identical to chlamydia, through unprotected vaginal, oral, or anal fluids. The bacteria target the mucous membranes of your body, meaning they don't just stop at the genitals. They can easily infect your throat if oral contact happens, or your rectum during anal contact. It's highly contagious, meaning if you expose yourself to an infected person just once, the chances of you catching it are incredibly high. The symptoms. If you're a guy and you catch the clap, you're going to know it within a few days. The burning sensation when you pee is so unbelievably intense, it will literally make you scream. Alongside that agonizing burn, your body will start producing a thick, nasty, yellowish-green discharge that looks like pure pus dripping from your penis. It's completely repulsive. Women might experience a huge spike in vaginal discharge, painful urination, and bleeding after intimacy. If the infection lands in your throat from oral contact, you'll get a raw, swollen, incredibly painful sore throat that makes swallowing feel like chewing on thumbtacks. And if left untreated, it can travel through your bloodstream and cause severe, painful swelling in your joints. Syphilis. Now let's talk about syphilis, a bacterial infection that feels like something straight out of a historical horror movie. Syphilis is terrifying because it doesn't just stay in one place, it operates in distinct, increasingly dangerous stages. If you don't catch it early, it will literally spend years slowly creeping through your entire body, quietly destroying your organs, your heart, and your brain from the inside out. How it slips in. Unlike the first two infections we covered, syphilis doesn't even need fluid exchange to jump to a new host. It spreads entirely through direct skin-to-skin contact with a syphilis sore, known medically as a chancre. If a person has one of these sores on their genitals, anus, or lips, and your skin rubs against it during any sexual act, the bacteria instantly slip through microscopic tears in your skin and enter your bloodstream. The symptoms. The life cycle of syphilis is an absolute psychological mind game. In the primary stage, you get a single, firm, round, completely painless sore, exactly where the bacteria entered your body. Because it doesn't hurt, people often completely miss it or think it's just an innocent ingrown hair. Then the sore heals on its own, making you think you're totally fine. But it's a trap. Months later, the secondary stage hits, bringing a bizarre, non-itchy rash that usually breaks out on the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. You'll also feel like you have a horrific flu, fever, swollen glands, and massive fatigue. If you ignore that, the disease goes into hiding for years. Eventually, it reaches the tertiary stage, where it can cause blindness, complete mental breakdown, paralysis, and massive damage to your cardiovascular system. It's an absolute slow-motion train wreck. Genital herpes, HSV2. Let's move on to genital herpes, specifically caused by the herpes simplex virus type 2. If there is one word to describe herpes, it's forever. Once this virus gets into your DNA, it settles into your nerve cells and sets up a permanent residency. There is absolutely no cure. It's a lifelong cycle of going into hiding, waiting for your immune system to drop its guard, and then popping back up to ruin your day over and over again. How it slips in herpes is another master of skin-to-skin contact. It doesn't care about fluids, all it takes is your skin rubbing against an active sore or infected area. What's truly terrifying is a process called asymptomatic shedding. This means an infected person can look completely healthy, with absolutely no visible sores or blisters, but the virus is still actively hanging out on the surface of their skin, ready to jump to you the second you touch. The symptoms. The initial outbreak of herpes is widely described as an absolute living hell. It usually starts with a weird, localized tingling or itching sensation around your groin. Within a few days, a cluster of incredibly painful, fluid-filled blisters erupts across your genitals, thighs, or buttocks. These blisters eventually pop, turning into raw, open, oozing sores that sting intensely whenever they rub against your clothes or get hit with urine. Along with the local agony, your first outbreak usually comes with severe body aches, a raging fever, and incredibly swollen lymph nodes in your groin. The sores eventually crust over and heal, but the virus is just retreating into your nerves, waiting for stress, sickness, or friction to trigger the next painful outbreak. Human papillomavirus, HPV, is so incredibly common that almost every sexually active person who doesn't protect themselves will contract it at some point in their lives. There are over 100 different strains of this virus. Some are relatively harmless but deeply annoying, while others are incredibly sinister and are directly responsible for causing multiple types of deadly cancer. How it slips in HPV is highly contagious and spreads instantly through intimate skin-to-skin contact. Because it doesn't rely on bodily fluids, barrier methods, like condoms, don't even offer complete 100% protection because the virus can live on skin that a condom doesn't cover. One casual encounter with someone carrying the virus, and it easily hitches a ride onto your body. The symptoms HPV strains are generally divided into two main categories, low risk and high risk. The low risk strains show up in the form of genital warts. These are flesh-colored bumpy growths that pop up around the penis, vagina, or anus, often clumping together to look exactly like tiny, repulsive pieces of cauliflower. They can itch and bleed, causing massive embarrassment and physical discomfort. On the flip side, the high-risk strains are completely invisible. They cause absolutely zero physical symptoms for years while silently rewriting the cellular structure of your body. Over time, these high-risk strains can lead directly to cervical cancer in women, as well as cancers of the penis, anus, and throat in men. You won't feel a thing until the cancer has already formed, making it a terrifyingly silent threat. Human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. This brings us to one of the most famous and heavy-hitting viruses on the planet, HIV. HIV is a virus that launches a direct, targeted assault on your body's immune system, specifically wiping out the cells that protect you from getting sick. While medical advancements have thankfully made it a manageable chronic condition today, make no mistake, catching it will completely alter the trajectory of your entire life, requiring lifelong medication to prevent it from turning into fatal AIDS. How it slips in HIV is primarily a fluid-transmitted virus. It travels in high concentrations through blood, semen, pre-seminal fluid, and vaginal fluids. During unprotected intimacy, the virus passes through the delicate mucous membranes of the vagina or anus, or enters through tiny microscopic cuts and tears caused by friction. Anal contact carries an exceptionally high risk of transmission because the tissues there are incredibly fragile and prone to tearing, giving the virus a direct, unhindered highway into the bloodstream. The symptoms. The tricky thing about HIV is its timeline. A few weeks after exposure, many people experience what feels like a brutal case of the flu. We're talking a high fever, severe chills, night sweats, muscle aches, sore throat, and a full body rash. This is called acute retroviral syndrome, and it's your immune system desperately screaming as the virus floods your system. After this initial phase passes, the virus goes into a clinical latency stage. You feel completely healthy and fine, and you might look great from the outside, but the virus is quietly copying itself billions of times, systematically destroying your immune defense lines. If left untreated, years later your immune system completely collapses, leading to rapid weight loss, chronic diarrhea, persistent extreme fatigue, and rare, life-threatening infections that a healthy body could easily fight off. Hepatitis B. Hepatitis B is a shockingly tough virus that attacks your liver. It's highly contagious, up to 100 times more infectious than HIV, and can survive outside the body for days. How it slips. And it spreads through infected bodily fluids like blood, semen, and vaginal secretions. During unprotected contact, it easily enters through mucous membranes or microscopic tears in the skin. The symptoms: jaundice. Your skin and eyes turn a distinct yellow. Abdominal pain. Intense pain on the upper right side over your liver. Discolored waist. Dark, tea-colored urine and pale clay-gray stool. Extreme sickness. Raging nausea, vomiting, and bone-crushing fatigue. Long-term damage. If it goes chronic, it causes cirrhosis, liver failure, and liver cancer. If this video is opening your eyes and keeping you safe, do me a massive favor. Smash that like button and hit subscribe to the channel right now. Drop a comment below to help beat the algorithm, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss another reality check. Let's get back to it.